Hi, I'm Alexander VanStone. I'm a media professional who has been working in video, television, film, and event production since 2002. I was the producer and director behind the Circumnavigators Club Foundation's Around the World Travel Study Grants 50th Anniversary Celebration Video Archive Series. For this project, I worked with Foundation President Greg Ryder on big picture strategy for the project, and I worked with Executive Director Tracy Sancilio. She helped out with facilitating contact with all of our interview subjects, tracking down archival photos and articles and other useful information, just a great asset to have on the team. And I worked with Senior Foundation Coordinator Brian VanStone Evans, who offered technical and creative consultation throughout the process and really helped me design a remote production workflow that worked for the age of COVID-19 and having a global community like this make a project together. I spoke with 22 scholars from Georgetown, Northwestern, Princeton, Brandeis, Arizona State, Michigan State, Florida State, and the American Graduate School of International Management. I got to enjoy producing a live-to-tape panel discussion with Dr. Peter Crow, the Dean Emeritus of Georgetown's Walsh School of Foreign Service, and also in that panel discussion I had Foundation President Greg Ryder and Senior Coordinator Brian Evans. I was also able to speak with Dr. Bruce Magid, the Dean Emeritus of Brandeis University's International Business School, and he was also Georgetown's 1972 Foundation Scholar recipient of this grant. In addition to that, I got to have a great conversation with Dr. Peter Savetta of Northwestern University. He's an administrator and faculty advisor there, and he did a great job of sharing his passion for connecting students with opportunities they wouldn't know where to look for had they not come through his office. Seems like a great resource to everyone over there. I just also got to speak with longtime Chicago chapter coordinator Carol Narup, and she just shared about how all the local communities of these chapters all really come together and support the scholars as they're on their around the world trips, and love getting to hear from them when they get back. I had the great and excellent privilege and pleasure of interviewing two generations of foundation leadership. In tandem, executive directors Tracy Sancilio and Helen Jost. Their hard work and creative problem solving has helped scholars and foundation officers alike throughout the 50-year history of this grant program. We began the production process for this project by distributing a questionnaire to relevant parties asking for basic biographical information, core questions related to their circumnavigations, and personal photos from their trips. I then scheduled teleconference interviews with all the respondents who expressed interest in participating. Working from their questionnaires, I formulated additional interview questions to discuss with each participant for this archival video project. Following each interview, I edited myself out of the footage and worked with Senior Coordinator Brian Evans to edit the remaining footage. After the interviews, I ran the footage through transcription software. I used these time-coded transcripts that were generated to create written versions of each video and the accompanying graphics I wanted to build for it, and text that would go over the screen. And that just served as a great guide for the edit process to get on the same page with Brian and the rest of the foundation before I moved on to doing all of the more technical post-production work on the project. I then built out the interviews in Adobe Premiere and assembled the corresponding graphics and photos. Piggybacking off the individual interviews, Foundation Coordinator Brian Evans combed the transcripts to identify highlights, and we used these highlights to assemble an initial script that we used for the documentary. We then wrote up narration, and we recorded President Greg Ryder delivering that narration using teleprompter software. I then assembled all these pieces together in Adobe Premiere to create the 18-minute documentary with 24 interview clips to commemorate this grant's 50th anniversary. For our conversation with Dr. Peter Crow, I scaled down workflows used in broadcast television to remotely produce a 3-person live-to-tape panel discussion video with all 3 subjects teleconferencing in, which is great to figure out how to make new moves with this technology for this age where more and more people are working from home and we have more and more global teams working together remotely. After that, once the videos were completed, I built and organized a YouTube channel to allow easy access to our completed media library. I also backed up all media assets and documentation into cloud storage and physical drives for safekeeping and preservation by the foundation. Hopefully these can continue to be used for looking back at the history of this grant and many anniversaries to come. We were very fortunate to be able to incorporate a lot of photos, and these were all submitted by our participants, our interview subjects, former scholars, foundation officials, and university administrators. So many people took amazing photos during their circumnavigations, and some of them had them from other circumnavigator events. And the more photos we had, the more we were able to incorporate them. And there were a few circumnavigators that were from different universities in the same year that met up along the way and took pictures together. It was awesome to have a record of that moment and to be able to share it with the rest of the circumnavigator community through this film. So one thing we tried to do with the videos is as people were talking about the different countries they were visiting, I would put in the lower corner of the screen the flag of the country they were referring to and the name of that country. And I did my best to search online databases of royalty-free image files of these flags. I would also try to coordinate with what was the flag of that nation in the year that this person circumnavigated, which in 50 years, you know, borders and names of countries and how things are organized changes. So that was a cool experience to get to see the world in all those different years through those flags. For the score, we worked with pianist Frank Humphrey, who used a few of his original compositions, but also some classical pieces that we selected working with Brian Evans and Greg Ryder. And we incorporated those into the edit. And then I had the good fortune to work with Hollywood sound engineer Noah Fink, who gave us this great mix to take all this teleconference interview software audio along with this music that we recorded on a mobile device and put it all together and come out with a product that I think sounds pretty good. Looking back at the history of this grant, which is such a big part of both the Circumnavigators Club Foundation and the Circumnavigators Club 2, there's a piece of music that we felt we absolutely had to bring to this project, and that's John Philip Sousa, the famous American composer's Circumnavigators Club March. So we took a version of this and we used it for the opening intro to the video, and then we used it again in the end of the video. I thought very rightfully so, as we scroll through the names of all of the past recipients of this grant and what their topics were, their universities, and the years of their circumnavigations. So I think that's just a great moment to end the piece with, to just tie it together and see all that this grant program has accomplished. I came away with so many wonderful insights from getting to do this project and getting to know this community. This foundation has done an amazing job of facilitating interactions between different generations of scholars and empowering and learning from young people that are eager to gain global perspectives. This grant has produced insightful leaders in global business, medicine, thought, policy, art, activism, and leisure. And the university administrators and foundation officials work hard to push these scholars to embrace their curiosity and meet the world with an open mind. The scholars, this was a really exciting part of talking to all of them. I felt like all of them reverted to the best parts of their 21-year-old selves as they came alive sharing their circumnavigation stories. And talking about what it was like to see the world through the eyes of a 21-year-old university student in whatever year that they went. And it made me feel like I got this deep insight into the 20th and 21st century through hearing all these stories. And I was particularly struck by the impact of Ray Dinsmore and other circumnavigators of his generation and what they did and how it impacted so many scholars and that went on to make positive impacts in their fields. Beyond that, I have come away from this project deeply impressed with the Around the World grant program and how it has created a pipeline from scholar to foundation volunteer, and seeing the everlasting excitement that this community has for encouraging learning through global curiosity. I felt like in every single one of the scholars and even the foundation officers and university officials, I really saw this spark of not just accepting their immediate surroundings or where they were at in life as the totality of what's going on in the world, or the totality of perspective, or the be all and end all of a worldview. And there is this immense curiosity and excitement about getting to learn how other people think, how other people do things, and entering those situations with humility and seeing opportunities for what are ways I can learn from this, rather than how do I reinforce that my way is best. And I think there is a very amazing spirit of collaboration through all of these circumnavigator scholars, that you see in the people that come back and work in the foundation and help new scholars go on their trips and research their topics. And this desire to help connect people, and feel connected themselves. And you could see that a lot of these people have gone on to have great careers, doing international work, be it in business, art, or whatever else, or government. I was really taken aback by the humility of all of these participants, and I think their eagerness to see themselves as members of a global community, and just earthlings on the planet, that has them navigate through things and treat people in a very considerate way that I appreciated and was struck by. And a lot of these people have gone on to have very high-powered and influential positions, or are continuing on in the fields of research and policy, and doing a lot to help and empower others and be an amazing asset to their communities or businesses or governments, wherever they've landed at. And it's just great seeing that spark tie through of the world is bigger than just me. How do I be the best member of that world I can be? I could really see that everybody involved in this project really lives up to the Circumnavigator's motto of, through friendship, leave this world a better place than you found it. I've been working in the entertainment and media industry since I was a teenager. I began by booking local, regional, and then eventually national and international rock acts at clubs and community spaces in the DC area growing up. And then I studied film and television production at George Mason University, Växjö University in Sweden, and the Vancouver Film School in British Columbia, Canada. I then moved to Los Angeles. One of my first jobs was working on Oprah's Next Chapter as a production coordinator and lighting technician. I worked on Animal Planet series Whale Wars, documenting international activists upholding the UN Charter for Nature, defending a whale sanctuary off the Antarctic coast against poachers. I've worked on a number of home renovation shows, including one at a 1650s plantation estate in Virginia. That was a lot of working with archaeologists, and I'm a big history buff, so that was very exciting to do. I've been a lighting designer and key grip on tons and tons of web series and independent films, as well as television films. More specifically, Lifetime thriller movies. I've done a lot of lighting design on. And I also make my own independent scripted films. I like to focus on historical stories or stories around subcultures or different cities that aren't showcased on camera as much. For the past 3 years, I have worked at the Warner Brothers movie lot in Burbank, California, at the Ellen DeGeneres show as media manager. And for that job, I back up all of the footage and I run the archival assets, making sure they're on hand as needed for our writers and producers and editors. And I just want to conclude by saying thank you so much to President Ryder, Coordinator Brian Evans, and Executive Directors Tracy Sancilio and Helen Jost for all of their help making this project possible, and to all the scholars that shared their time and their stories with me, as well as their photographs. I felt like this was such an amazing way to get to know so many interesting, intelligent, influential people. And as the circumnavigators love to say, luck to you.